Okay. As you all know, I usually forget to hit record, so I wanted to be intentional with that. But wanted to thank you all for joining. At this point, we're gonna have the Office of Equity give an update, which is gonna become an annual treat since their inception and the rebirthing of our branch. Aligning on key countywide equity goals and initiatives and really understanding how their work continues to expand throughout the county infrastructure and what their plans are moving forward. As you all know, they are a growing and mighty team tackling some big things internally within the county system. And as you know, continue to work diligently to gain the support to continue their work and impacts moving forward. So without further ado, I'm gonna turn it over to,
Yep, I'll start.
Lindsay.
Okay. So thank you, everybody, both in Zoom and here in person. We're so excited to welcome you all to our new space. For those who haven't visited us in person, we're located here downtown and have been here a few months now. We moved from really far away, just across the street in the other bank building right there. And so I'm just waiting a moment for them to be ready. Thanks so much for being here. Okay. So now we're gonna do some team introductions and tell you just a little bit about what each of us hold, because we are the full department.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us over to present again. My name is Melissa Valle. I am currently the interim director for the Office of Equity. And I have the pleasure of leading this team and to sit in community tonight to talk a little bit about our work this year.
Hi everyone, my name is Dora Estrada. My pronouns are she, her, ella. I identify as Chicana, and I am a department analyst for the Office of Equity. I hold both the operations of the department along with core team and racial equity action plan work.
I'm Lindsay Franco. I am our office's strategic planning analyst. Therefore, I look at our racial equity and social justice pillar goals and objectives, and kind of track on how we're doing with those goals that were set for us. And for the office, I'm also one of the co-trainers for the Racial Equity Foundation's training that you'll hear a little bit more about later.
I'm Roxanne Ezett. I'm a department analyst here in the office focusing on disaster recovery, working on some of the analysis of our ARPA funded projects, our community resilience projects, and was working alongside Ruby in the language access plan we just got.
I will, I'll speak on behalf of Ruby Olvera, who is our bilingual community engagement analyst. She's been leading a community engagement plan project, which you'll hear a little bit more about later. She's been with the team very early since 2021. Both her and Lindsay were first hires after we got like the admin team set up. So she's unable to be here with us today, but she's here in spirit. And then Lorenza Quito, who you see at the bottom in the beautiful yellow attire. She is a racial equity accountability analyst. She works very much in close partnership with Lindsay, making sure that the training that we deliver to departments and staff members is also being able to take into a workshop for accountability, anti-racist results-based accountability. And then we have Eileen Brand, who's the newest member of our team, who's an admin aide supporting the ARPA funded positions in their work. And Pilar is here.
Good timing.
Thank you. You want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Yes. I'm Pilar Garibay. I'm an administrative assistant with the Office of Equity, and I support the office and administrative and operations.
If you are emailing equity at Sonoma County, you're probably corresponding with Pilar first. She is our first point of contact, and then she delivers accordingly to the rest of us.
Yes.
That's all. Okay. It didn't work. There we go.
So you're seeing on the screen right now, the mission of the office. Our work started heavily started as a result of the protests and calls for racial justice. And then, the pandemic hit and inequities were even harder to hide or to try to look past. We started this work, the office led the work of trying to mitigate and respond in a different way to the inequities that were so overwhelmingly on people of color here locally. And then we were able to make a shift about 2 years in 2022 to create the Equity Office, the Office of Equity Mission, Vision, and Values. I won't read what you have on the screen here, but I would say I want to know the colors, the yellow, which really speak about our work and what we're trying to hold ourselves accountable to as we do our work here in this office, which is authentic and collaborative partnerships, disrupting systemic harm, redesigning structures, directing resources towards healing, liberation, and belonging, and then also really using the ARRBS you've heard or you will hear to bring in transparency and accountability into our work.
And so in our office, racial equity is defined both as an outcome and a process in which we explicitly uplift and center the voices and contributions of people of color and other systematically marginalized and excluded communities. What this definition is really showing is that we are using racial equity both as we do our work, how we do our work, and it's hopefully the what of our work as the outcome. And we do this. Gosh, it's really not clicking, sorry. There we go. And we do this using anti-racist practices and principles. Our office defines anti-racism as an active process of identifying and eliminating racism so that hopefully there's a redistribution of power. And this little graphic here shows what some services or programs may think anti-racism is. And then you have a much more complex pie there showing what anti-racism really looks like in service support.
So now we're going to move into some of the items and plans that we've been working on for the last year maybe, or longer actually. So we're going to start with the boards and commissions plan. This plan was approved by the Board of Supervisors on June 10th, so not even a month ago. This work really started as a work to assess and do better community engagement with a focus on racial equity and communities who've been really disenfranchised from government, disconnected by all of the reasons we know about, by systemic inequities and barriers, and to try to figure out a different way to do community engagement. Upon embarking on this work, the Rubid, who I mentioned is a community engagement person, really worked with our consultants, Equity First Consulting. They were supporting this work. They interviewed nearly 200 people, focus groups with community members representing different identities to build a community engagement plan, which was presented to the board in June as a draft. In January as a draft of this year. And during that board meeting, the board directed the office to focus on the boards and commissions, which are the existing governing bodies, and to start our work by using that focus. So we came back on June with implementing the direction that was given to us to present a boards and commissions plan. So we were able to take about 21 of those strategies initially broadly created for community engagement and to build them into the boards and commissions plan. And the work that was done, so that was approved, the work that was done through the community engagement process was also included in this board item. So we did present a community engagement plan with all of the information that was gathered through this process that lasted about a year. And they adopted or endorsed, as the board item language would say, a community engagement toolkit, which we're going to work with departments to have them implement in ways to do community engagement outside of the boards and commissions. So we know that the boards and commissions are not still at a place where they are representative of their community. And so we are bringing that as a plan to change that, but also bringing the community engagement toolkit in recognition that some departments are already going out and working with community, and they need to be better equipped to do culturally sensitive community engagement, so as not to create more harm in their quest to get in community buy-in or feedback. So that's a piece of what was presented, and then really work really hard too with Native community members and Native tribal leaders to create and to present an informational brief on intergovernmental relationships, which was also received by the board and can also be used to inform future efforts around our commitment to do community engagement in a way that is respectful of Native nations' sovereignty, and that really highlights and explores what more we need to know to get to a better healing and relationship building place with Native communities and nations in Sonoma County. So as next steps, we were the plan was approved on June 10th. We had budget hearings the following week. The board did approve our request for support for implementation for this plan. They did approve funding to hire a permanent community engagement manager to focus on the implementation of the boards and commissions plan. And they also funded $150,000 for us to hire a consultant to help us assess the existing boards and commissions and figure out how we make that spaces where we remove barriers for communities of color to come in and other communities who really haven't been included in any of this or afforded really the opportunity to enter and sit and speak at the table of these boards and commissions. Thank you.
All right, as Melissa mentioned, it's been a busy year. We presented the language access workshop earlier in the year and then followed it up with our language access policy and implementation plan that also got adopted. Much like the community engagement work, this work involved having focus groups with folks across 8 different languages in the county to understand residents' experiences of having to access services and whether or not interpretation and translation services are provided as they should be, and if not, where are those barriers and how can we overcome those barriers? So the language access policy that we put in place, as we can see with the data here, over a quarter of our population in Sonoma County is speaking a language other than English at home, with a large proportion of those folks that don't speak any or very little English. So it's really important for us to have vital documents translated, to have interpreters on our contracts ready to assist clients across the languages that they're speaking. Again, we were fortunate that the board did approve for us to hire a language access coordinator who will be overseeing this work, training employees, allowing oversight of the contracts we have to ensure that we have the languages needed to do outreach with community so that community knows how to go about advocating on their behalf to get interpreters and get translation in place, to have interpreters at public meetings. Again, some of this will be addressed with boards and commissions as well. So we're excited that that one is moving ahead as well. And then Lindsay clicks this over. Other projects that I've been working on are disaster relief and long-term disaster recovery. We had the January 23 winter storms, as some of you may have been impacted by, and during that time, the board released some funds through resilience centers to assist families that were impacted financially. And through that, they had asked us to come back with contracts already in place, so should another disaster hit, we don't have to go through the stumbling blocks to get monies released. There's $1.1 million that's in that fund. It is only a one-time fund, so once those monies are dispersed in the community, we don't have any additional funds that are planned on coming in. We do have 2 signed contracts now with CAP through COAD and Child Parent Institute, signed and ready to go. So should we have an earthquake, a fire, or other floods, we have means to assist low wage workers in the county, residents in the county who were impacted by those disasters to be able to apply for those funds. And in that work, we're also working with both COAD and faith-based organizations to have a good disaster asset mapping of all of our community-based organizations and what kinds of supports they have, whether they're warming centers and cooling centers, providing financial assistance, senior assistance, sort of that whole gamut. Jeanette with COAD has really been spearheading that side on the community-based group, and Adam with Feathervine's really helping put that together on the faith-based group. And then following up on that, the county is working on a recovery operations plan. They had one that was put together years ago. There wasn't community input on that. So the county's working to get community input in 4 workshops. We had one last week. We have 2 more in person that we show on here. We have a 4th one that will also be done on Zoom. And really the importance here is we want to think about planning for those folks that aren't always sitting at the tables and thinking about your own experiences, your community's experiences with long-term recovery. Thinking about COVID and folks losing jobs and impacts of morbidity and mortality rates, but also thinking about fires and floods and the aftermath and the lack of FEMA funds that may come that renters don't get access to, the rent hikes that folks may face as disasters. So all of those kinds of things, we really are using these 4 sessions as listening sessions to find out what the county does well, but where we need to improve and how we can build that into this. So I encourage any of you or spread the word to get others out to share on your behalf your experiences.
All right, now I'm up. See if I can do 2 things at once here. So I am one of our facilitators for this Racial Equity Foundations training as well. What you're seeing here is kind of our agenda for what we share during that time together. This training was co-created and is co-facilitated by a team of our multiracial facilitators who are also Sonoma County employees. So we're providing an opportunity to continue using and expanding our racial equity skill sets. And I mentioned that our training was created by county employees for county employees because we are able to provide a unique and tailored lens of what racial equity in government can and does look like and how it can be integrated into everyday decision-making. The intention is to roll out this training first to management and supervisors to increase understanding of racial equity as our county expectation, just of being a public servant, but also to hopefully create more opportunities to unlock employee time and resources to do racial equity work instead of employees having to use their vacation days. Now I'm going to share just a few examples of some of the slides that are part of that Racial Equity Foundation curriculum. Some of that is also utilizing the resources that NAACP has created and cultivated. This was the NAACP and Sonoma State project for the Sonoma County Slavery Historical Research Project. We share information about kind of double dutching through time and showing the things that have changed over time and the things that haven't. We share a little bit about, we often have to answer why we lead with race. And so this training also provides the information and history of government structures that have always led with race. And then in that training, we're also normalizing shared language and definitions, including definitions like race, racism, anti-Blackness, and colorism. All right, now what you see here, so that Racial Equity Foundations training serves as a prerequisite for Lorraine's course, which she actually trained all day today, which is why she's not here with us. This is a 6-hour intensive, really deep dive into what are the real heavy root causes for the issues that we're seeing. And so she's doing tailored one-on-one work with departments, big county trainings on this for us to be able to have that specific time and space to sit down, look at an issue and really pick it apart. And that's the time and energy that oftentimes we as county employees don't have the luxury of. It's get the job done and get it done now. So this training is a really, really important step forward, an opportunity for our county departments to learn how to do this work.
The, the last line on there, partnership with upstream investments, is that
Yes.
the health services department?
They are part of the health services
Human.
department. Sorry, ooh, that was a big one. Human services department, not health services.
Thank you.
Sure. And then this is a little trajectory path that essentially is showing kind of how we've done this work. And so how do we build up our internal capacity to do this? Starting by building these containers, that's something our office has been doing since we started. Advancing this collective race equity knowledge, that's doing these race foundation trainings for the county. The intensive work that we were able to appreciate as core team members. Learning to apply anti-racist principles. So that's how do we actually put what we're learning into action? And then hopefully leading to that goal of the dot over there. This is what a results statement can sound like, doing anti-racist results-based accountability that we're hoping to get to an increased collective capacity and ownership to advance equitable outcomes for Black, Indigenous, and people of color in Sonoma County. Heady work, good work. And so race equity analyses. So these are something that I support with, support departments, especially those who have been identified as having a significant item through the board. They're required to do these or at least look at whether they should do one. It's a 6-step process. This has been a learning process for county departments to use it. We're still figuring out how not to get lost in the tool and let that muddy the work to be done. And so it's an evolving partnership, again, with county departments on how we can support them to have a new lens on work that we may not have cultivated before.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm gonna talk about another big project that we've been working on, which is our racial equity action plan. In this picture, you can actually see a lot of the folks that were instrumental in getting this created and approved. So that picture was taken on May 17th when the plan was approved by the Board of Supervisors. That was a big win. So the action plan, the first version of this action plan, we realized that we needed to start internal. Because we know that our county staff is part of the County of Sonoma community, but we also know that they're serving the community. And if they don't understand racial equity concepts, if they don't understand why it's so important, they're not gonna serve our community how they need to be served and how they deserve to be served, as President Lang has experienced. So here we have our results statement. All county staff, especially staff of color, feel a sense of belonging and are supported to achieve their career goals within the county organization. That is our goal, and it's a big goal. So we created this plan as a roadmap, and you'll see it shortly. If you wanna go ahead to the next slide.
Can I do a quick shout out to Adriana, Chantel, and
Yeah.
Alegria in the group who worked on this with us. And who are also in the picture here.
It's a pretty awesome picture. Okay, this is the plan in one page. Yes, we know it's small text, but it does fit in one page. We did this very intentional to make sure that
One of the, one person told us it's a really small font.
but it still fits in one
response to
page.
the others, it fits in one page.
Before somebody else says it, I'm just kidding. It has 3 big overarching strategies and 10 sub-strategies. I'm not gonna go over the strategies today, but if you do have questions on these, please reach out or after the presentation. But I do wanna point out the barriers and the whys, which in ARBA are internal indicators and hot roots. Some of the internal indicators that we identified through research. So this is coming from data. It's not something that's made up, like we did the research and saw this. County management is not representative of the racial demographic of Sonoma County. You see that in the HR database that's public on the County of Sonoma website. Staff of color report disproportionate dissatisfaction with management practices. We saw that through surveys that are being collected. We know that these are probably internal indicators that are happening in other workforces, not just in us, in our workforce. So we hope that we could lead by example and other workforces also use this as almost like a roadmap for them to also work on their racial inequities within their workforce. Lastly, I do want to mention, I know that there are other counties that have action plans that are focused externally. We are not there yet. This is our first iteration, and we hope that our next iteration of this plan can be an external plan focused on measures that are for the community. So I do wanna say too, like, all these, why ARRBA is so important and why we really wanted to use it for this plan, and it's heavily used throughout this plan, is because it has accountability measures. So we're focused on making sure that, hey, we're working on these strategies, we're implementing them, but if they're not working, let's come back. And we're gonna be able to measure that with our better offs, with our how much, with our how well, which are all performance measures under ARRBA.
Get it. And so also in Dora's explanation, she's also showing that our office is modeling
Yeah.
using this anti-racist methodology as well. We're not just here to tell other departments how to do it, we're doing it ourselves too.
And we're also learning together. We know that it's a constant, you're going back and forth, back and forth. There's no one right way of doing it. Like, we're all constantly learning new concepts, new things that are happening. Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay, so we're getting to the end, so we're just gonna drop a few of the challenges that we've been navigating this year. And then we're gonna go into highlights because we wanna close on a fun note. But as you can imagine, being a recently founded or established office, in a leadership transition where we had Alegria de la Cruz, who was our founding director, lead this office for 4 years. And as she transitioned out of the county, it was a transition for the team too, and for the office. And it also created room for discussions around what should be the future of the office, which I assume some of you have seen on the paper or saw on the paper at that given time. And so that's something we had to navigate, that we, transition leadership, and also just navigating the discussions around the future of our team. As we also presented all of these different plans and had all of these board presentations to deliver work, and knowing that at the same time, the position of the office as a standalone department was being discussed. Since I've heard that it is that those intentions are not supported by the full board, but that needs to be still yet to be materialized more formally. We've also had staff and capacity requests for the 4 years since we've been in existence. We started with 3 people. It used to be Alegria, Dora, and myself. Then we got Lindsay and Ruby to come in and join us through ARPA funded support. We've got Roxanne, Lorraine, Pilar, Eileen. I think I got everybody. And we, as we've grown, we've also held the recognition that some of our ARPA funded positions, all of our ARPA funded positions, which are about half of our staff, are time limited, and that we've needed permanent capacity to really sustain the operations of the office moving forward. And then the 4th challenge is an ongoing challenge, as you can imagine, resistance to system change as you try to do racial equity work in an institutional environment such as the County of Sonoma. Something that we have to navigate constantly, and it is there not only because we recognize this as part of our job, but it really does take a toll on staff to try to do their work and carry the emotional burden that it is to justify why we need to focus on racial equity and why we should be working actively, all of us as public servants, to really mitigate or disarm and stop systemic racism in the many ways that most of us can as public servants and hold responsibility for doing. So now we're gonna move into highlights.
Also, I just wanna add, if you all are having a hard time hearing, sorry,
yes.
the staff just started vacuuming downstairs, it sounds like.
So if there's any for any of us to speak louder, we will. So highlights here, in the midst of that transition, I had again the fortune of being appointed as interim director of the Office of Equity. We were lucky to have several weeks of a transition period between Alevia's departure and my appointment to try to make a more sustainable transition, not only for the office, but for staff impacted by this change. Like Roxanne mentioned, we did get the disaster emergency financial assistance contracts approved in partnership with the Department of Emergency Management and the Human Services Department. We get the language access, the boards and commissions, and the racial equity action plan approved this year between May and June, which is work that staff developed, from almost 2 years before bringing them actually to fruition and approval from the board. We launched the Racial Equity Foundations training, which is a training that has never done in this way in the county, to teach staff about our responsibility to develop racial equity competencies as public servants. We've also launched the Racial Equity Toolkit analysis, really looking into asking all of these racial equity centered questions as we develop programs and policies, and to support departments in taking a deeper look as to how our programs perpetuate or have actually the opportunity to mitigate inequities that we've been replicating for years. We've also have in the last couple of years some new team members join us. We've had Roxanne early last year. We had Lorraine join us to support the ARBA workshops. We had Pilar join us as an administrative assistant, which we most needed, growing from 3 people to about 8 without any added admin support has been a challenge. And then we're really grateful. And then Eileen, we had her join us as an extra help staff member to support the ARPA funded staff in their work too, in the admin capacity. We attended the Marine Equity Summit.
Also, as a team,
MMC.
we're in municipal.
We got that a little
Acronym.
mixed up in
Yeah,
there, but
mine
we
too.
went to an equity summit together at SSU to do some learning together, and then we attended the Othering and Belonging conference in here. And we were discussing, what's a highlight for us earlier today as we were putting this together. And we really did decide that this has been sort of the first year that we've gotten opportunities to do learning and joy together. And we wanted to include that and celebrate that as highlights for the team. We really cherish the spaces in which we get to soak in new perspectives and to be together in community and in learning outside of the office sometimes.
Just to add on number 8, Lindsay was promoted to a permanent full-time strategic plan position too.
Yeah. And through the budget hearing process, we got 3 new permanent positions. And an upgrade to our admin team, so basically a higher level position by eliminating another position in there. So we really do have some work to do to open some recruitments and to make sure that we're giving our time limited staff opportunities to apply for permanent positions within the Office of Equity. Well, now that you're here, you know where to find us physically, and if not, through the email. You can find our mission, vision, and values on the website. We have a newsletter that, due to the just constrained capacity, we haven't sent out lately, but we do want to make sure that we continue to update and share about our wins and challenges too, as we have staff time. So if you do subscribe to the newsletter, I can't promise it will go out tomorrow, but we're working on it. And thank you for listening to us and for visiting. just coming in and being in community here.
Thank you.